He said it so calmly. I almost believed it wasn't cruel. It's not personal, Claire. You just stopped inspiring me. The moving truck's door slammed shut behind him. My best friend, Mara, stood beside him. Her hand slipped easily into his. They didn't look back as they drove away from the house I designed, the garden I planted, the life I built. I just stood there, clutching the house keys like they still meant something. That night, I sat alone in a small rented apartment, the hum of the fridge the only sound. My phone buzzed an email from a venture fund I'd almost forgotten applying to. Investment approved, $2.4 million. The tears stopped. My hands steadied. Something inside me turned to steel. That was the night I stopped begging to be seen and started building a life they could never touch. If you've ever been replaced, underestimated, or betrayed by the ones you trusted most, hit that like button and subscribe. I love knowing where you're listening from. Drop your city in the comments. Because this isn't a story about heartbreak, it's about what happens when silence turns into power. Now, let me take you back to where this all began. Before all of this, before the betrayal, the launch party, the headlines, there was a version of me who believed that love meant loyalty and sacrifice. I used to think building a life together meant giving him everything. My time, my patience, even the quiet parts of myself I never showed anyone. Ethan was the dream everyone warned you about: charming, ambitious, magnetic, the kind of man who filled a room without saying a word. When we met in college, I was the practical one. He was the visionary. I handled the details, he handled the spotlight. It worked for a while. He liked to say I was the backbone of our marriage, but what he really meant was that I was invisible enough to hold everything up without being noticed. I managed his early startup finances, handled investor reports, cleaned up his pitch decks before meetings. When he got his first round of funding, he gave a speech thanking the team, not me. And I told myself it didn't matter. That love was about partnership, not credit. Mara entered our lives around that time. She was everything. I wasn't loud, spontaneous, magnetic, in a way people noticed. We met through work. She joined as a project consultant. She had this way of making everyone feel like they were the most interesting person in the room, even me. At first, I liked her, trusted her. We'd drink wine in my kitchen, laugh over client horror stories, and dream about where we'd be in 10 years. Turns out, she was already planning her next decade with my husband. But before the truth came out, the signs were small, almost delicate. Late meetings, whispered laughter in hallways, the way Ethan's phone always faced down when he set it on the table. When I asked, he smiled that calm, patient smile, the one that always made me feel like I was being too emotional. "You worry too much, Claire," he said once. "You should trust people more." So, I did. And it cost me everything. The night before our anniversary, he said he'd be working late. I stayed up anyway, candles lit, dinner waiting. The food went cold by midnight. I fell asleep on the couch with my phone in hand. At 3 a.m., a notification buzzed a tagged photo on social media. Ethan, Mara, champagne. The caption read, "To new beginnings." The room spun, not from shock, but from recognition. The kind you feel when the truth is something you've already known deep down, but were too afraid to name. I didn't confront him right away. I packed a small bag, left before sunrise, and checked into a small Airbnb across town. When he finally called, his voice was steady, almost relieved. "Claire, we should talk," he said. "About what?" "About moving forward separately. You'll be fine, you always are." That line carved into me like glass. "You'll be fine," as if my pain was an inconvenience. "He moved Mara into our house within a month," the neighbors whispered. My mother told me to be graceful about it. My friends stopped calling because they didn't know what to say. I disappeared quietly, like smoke after a fire. For months, I floated numb, functional, polite. The woman who smiled in elevators and answered emails with, "Hope you're doing well," but at night, I sat by the window, staring at the skyline, wondering when I had stopped being the main character in my own life. Then, one day, while sorting through my old hard drives, I found the folder, EcoGrid Prototype, an idea I'd once shown Ethan. A sustainable logistics platform that he called too idealistic. I opened the files and stared at the design mock-ups, my handwriting, my notes, the system he'd laughed at. And for the first time in months, I felt something other than sadness. I felt purpose. I spent the next 3 weeks rebuilding that idea from scratch. Days turned into nights, coffee cups turned into towers on my desk. I didn't have much, just a small savings, my laptop, and a kind of quiet determination that burned hotter than rage ever could. When I finally sent the pitch deck to an investor network online, I almost didn't expect a reply. But then came that email, "We'd like to discuss funding." And that's how it started. I didn't have a team, or an office, or even confidence. But I had something stronger: clarity. Every ounce of pain, every betrayal, every dismissal had trained me to think sharper, move smarter, and trust myself more than anyone else. That's what they never tell you about heartbreak. It's not just loss, it's the cleanest kind of reset you'll ever get. The first year felt like building a house from ashes. I rented a one-room office above a bakery, where the smell of cinnamon rolls mixed with the sound of old pipes. My desk was a door balanced on 2 crates. My first hire, a college intern named Sasha, brought her own chair from home. We had no money, no connections, just a shared belief that what we were making mattered. I named it Vertilink, a sustainable logistics platform that helped small businesses track and cut carbon costs. It was the same concept Ethan once dismissed. Now, it was the one thing that kept me breathing. Every morning, I'd wake before sunrise, make cheap coffee, and write goals on a sticky note. 1 investor call, 1 client demo, 1 line of progress. That was the rhythm that kept me sane. Sometimes, when exhaustion hit, I'd catch myself thinking of them, Ethan and Mara, living comfortably in the house I designed. I wondered if they ever mentioned my name. Maybe they didn't have to. Maybe success was the only conversation I needed to have with them. A few months later, Vertilink hit its first real milestone. A mid-sized retail chain agreed to test our platform across their supply routes. It wasn't glamorous, but it was proof. And proof, I'd learned, was louder than revenge. That winter, I attended my first industry pitch event. The room buzzed with investors in tailored suits, their laughter sharp as glass. I stood at the back, clutching my worn presentation folder. When my turn came, my voice trembled for the first 10 seconds, then steadied. "Every year," I said, "we lose billions to inefficient logistics. But what if efficiency and sustainability weren't opposites? What if they were partners?" I finished my pitch to polite applause. No fireworks, no handshakes. But 3 days later, an email came from a name I'd only seen in tech magazines: Rowan Grant, one of the country's leading angel investors. He invited me for coffee. I spent the night rewriting the pitch deck, every slide polished, every number checked. When I arrived the next morning, Rowan was already there, calm, analytical, eyes that missed nothing. "You've built something interesting," he said, sliding the laptop back to me. "Tell me, is this personal?" For a second, I didn't know how to answer. Then I said the truth. "It used to be. Now it's purpose." He nodded. "Good. Passion burns fast, purpose lasts." 2 weeks later, he wired the seed investment. $2.4 million. That night, I sat in my apartment, surrounded by empty takeout boxes and silence. No champagne, no celebration, just stillness. But under that quiet, I felt it. The shift. The moment I became someone new, I stopped checking Ethan's social media, stopped wondering if he'd heard my name. The part of me that wanted him to notice had finally died, and something sharper was born in its place. Vertilink grew fast. Within a year, we moved into a glass-walled office downtown. I hired the people I once dreamed of working with, women who'd been told they were too emotional, too unrealistic, too soft. We built quietly, relentlessly. One night, while reviewing contracts, I got a message from a real estate broker. "The Hartwell estate is up for sale again. Interested?" It was my old house, the one I'd been pushed out of. I didn't hesitate. "Buy it," I replied. I never moved back. I restored it, furnished it, filled it with light, then turned it into a creative retreat for women entrepreneurs. I wanted it to become a place where other people rebuilt, too. Sometimes, I'd visit on Sunday mornings when it was empty, walking barefoot through the marble halls. It smelled different now, no longer like betrayal, but like peace. 2 years passed. Vertilink expanded across Europe. Reporters started calling me the quiet storm of the sustainability industry. And one day, out of nowhere, an invitation arrived: the Global Tech Forum, Los Angeles. I was scheduled to headline the keynote. The night before the event, I checked the guest list out of habit. One name stopped me cold. Ethan Lang, CEO of Venix Logistics. Of course, the same man who once told me I was too soft for business was now a speaker on the panel after mine. I stared at his name, not with anger, but with clarity. Life had a wicked sense of symmetry. When I walked onto that stage, hundreds of people rose to applaud. My hands didn't shake this time. I spoke about resilience, not revenge. About building things that outlast heartbreak. When I finished, I caught a glimpse of Ethan in the crowd. His expression was unreadable, somewhere between pride and regret. I smiled politely, the kind of smile that says, "I don't hate you, I outgrew you." That night, I went home and finalized plans for Vertilink's next chapter, the public launch that would cement everything. The guest list would include investors, partners, and one pair of names at the very bottom, written deliberately in gold ink. Ethan and Mara Lang. They had taken my husband and my home. Now, they would walk into mine and see what I built from their ashes. The morning of the launch felt unreal. After years of silence, of rebuilding from the ruins, this was it, the moment, when everything would come full circle. The venue stood on the top floor of the Langford Hotel, a glass tower overlooking the city skyline. I'd rented the entire penthouse for the event. Every surface gleamed: black marble floors, cascading lights, and a panoramic view of the city that once swallowed me whole. The space pulsed with quiet power, not ostentation. Our company name glowed across the room: Vertilink, built from what they said I couldn't. Guests arrived one by one: venture capitalists, journalists, partners. Cameras flashed. My team moved with quiet precision, polished and proud. I wore a white tailored suit, clean lines. No jewelry except a silver watch. The same one Ethan once told me looked too masculine. Halfway through the evening, I saw them. Ethan and Mara. They entered like ghosts of another life, him in a navy suit, her in a gold dress too bright for the room. People turned, whispered. They were famous now in their own right. His company had been struggling publicly after a string of failed investments, but he still carried that same polished arrogance. Mara's hand rested lightly on his arm, but her eyes darted around the room, searching. She didn't recognize me at first. Not until I stepped onto the stage. The music softened, conversations quieted, every camera turned. "Good evening," I began, voice steady. 3 years ago, I was told that dreams like this were unrealistic, that some ideas weren't meant to be led by women, that some people simply lacked vision. I paused. The room stilled. Ethan's jaw tightened. "But sometimes," I continued, "when people shut a door, they forget what happens when you build your own house." Laughter rippled through the audience, low and approving. Behind me, the screen flickered to life images of the new Vertilink app, global partnerships, renewable energy collaborations. My team's faces appeared one by one. And then, the final slide, a photo of the Hartwell estate, bathed in morning light. The caption read, "Reclaimed, repurposed, reborn." The applause that followed was thunderous. When I stepped down, reporters swarmed with microphones. "Miss Hayes, what inspired Vertilink's message of reclamation?" one asked. I smiled. "Sometimes losing everything gives you the blueprint to rebuild better." In the crowd, I caught Ethan watching me. He tried to look composed, but his expression was cracked around the edges, the way pride looks when it turns to realization. Mara's smile was brittle, her champagne glass trembling just slightly. Later, during the networking hour, I saw them approach. Ethan was the first to speak. "Claire," he said, tone low, almost rehearsed. "You've done well." I turned slowly. I had a good education in resilience. He chuckled softly. "You always did." Mara forced a laugh. "We're happy for you." Her eyes flicked to the large Vertilink logo on the stage, then to the crowd of investors surrounding my team. I could tell she wanted to say more, to ask how I did it, how I'd turned pain into empire. But I didn't owe her an explanation. "Enjoy the evening," I said simply. "And the wine? It's from the vineyard I bought last year." They froze for a moment, the implication landing exactly where it should. The vineyard, the same one Ethan once promised he'd take me to when he made it big. I walked away before either could respond. Across the room, I could feel their silence. It was thick, heavy, the kind of silence that comes when you realize you're standing in someone else's triumph, someone you thought would never rise again. An hour later, as the last round of applause echoed and cameras flashed, I stood near the balcony, overlooking the city lights. Below me, cars streamed like veins of gold. Somewhere in that crowd, Ethan and Mara were leaving together, but smaller. I didn't need to see them go. Because the truth was, this night was never about revenge. It was about closure, about letting the world witness what healing in silence can build. As the doors closed behind the final guest, Sasha handed me a glass of champagne. "To us?" she said. I nodded. To every woman who was told she was replaceable and proved otherwise. The clinking of our glasses sounded like justice. The next morning, the city was quiet. Rain shimmered over the glass balcony of my penthouse, blurring the skyline into silver streaks. I sat there barefoot, a cup of coffee in my hands, watching the storm move across the horizon. My phone buzzed once, a single message from an unknown number. "You were right about everything. E." I stared at it for a long time. Then, I deleted it. No reply, no hesitation. Some stories didn't need sequels. Across the room, the award from last night's launch sat on the counter, Entrepreneur of the Year. I ran my fingers over the engraved letters, the metal cold but solid. The kind of weight that comes not from revenge, but from peace. Outside, the world was waking up again, horns, footsteps, the hum of morning life. I thought of the woman I used to be, the one who begged to be understood, who measured her worth through someone else's eyes. She had died the night I read that email, the one that said investment approved. Now, there was only me. Whole, unapologetic, unafraid. Before leaving for the office, I opened the window and let the rain drift in soft, steady, cleansing. On the balcony table lay the old house keys I had once clung to the night he left. I picked them up, turned them over in my hand, and smiled. Then I walked to the edge and let them fall, a quiet metallic sound swallowed by the city below. "They took my husband and my home," I whispered. But in losing them, I found myself. I turned away, shutting the door behind me. The storm had already passed, and sunlight was breaking through the clouds. "Revenge," I said softly, "isn't about hurting them. It's about becoming someone they can never reach again." And for the first time in years, I felt free.